Hello, and welcome to the podcast where friends discuss environmental policies from around the planet.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Planet Policy Pals podcast. I am joined here with my co-host Ala, and we are on a 5-week break. And we are starting interviews, which means, surprise, I am also joined here by our special guest, Miss Ibim Semenitari. Hello, how are you both?
Hello, Ajwa. Hello, Ala. I'm excited to join you.
And we are excited to have you. Hello, Ibim. Hello, Ajwa. This is the only time I get to call my mom Ibim. Prepare yourself.
And I'm going to kill you after the show.
I mean, Ala, you may use another term.
I know, right? Like Miss Semenitari.
I will not.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. We are very excited. And we are excited for you guys to keep following us. And since we are bringing you this gift, please go and show us some support on our socials. Find us on Twitter at Planet Policy Pal, Instagram at Planet Policy Pals, and like our Facebook page. And another thing you want to go show love to is Ala's favorite new app called Newsly. It is the revolutionary app that lets you listen to news, podcasts, and pretty much all the internet all at once. And everything from sports to science and pop culture is available to be read to you. They have trending podcasts from over 50 countries, including us, of course. So you have even more ways to hear all of our lovely voices.
Exactly. We use it ourselves. Like she said, it is one of my favorite apps and I love it. So head to www.newsly.me and use promo code PlanetPals to receive a 1-month free premium subscription courtesy of the awesome Newsly team. The link and code will be in the description as well. Go ahead, rest your eyes and gain some knowledge, you guys. Use Newsly.
And mind you, we are not getting paid for this.
We're not. I just love it.
Anyway, so today we are talking about the black soot problem in Port Harcourt. And that is why we have Miss Semenitari, who's going to be talking about Nigeria and the problem that we are facing. Since she is a local there, she's not only a local, she is also an activist and somebody who has really worked for the environment over there. So for more than a couple of years now, it's been about since 2015, so 7 years, the people of River State, they have woken up to an entire city just covered in soot. There's been a literal cloud that's been hanging over the southeastern city of Port Harcourt in Nigeria. Literally, people's clothes have been covered in soot. Like, the streets are covered in soot. Even residents' bed sheets are covered in soot. It is crazy. For the local people, the soot it's inescapable. It's made life hell for residents. The region isn't actually unfamiliar to pollution. The Niger Delta, like we talked about in our episode 26, it is the country's oil-producing region, and there are many oil refineries nearby. However, in the last few years, the situation has actually gotten much worse. So how do we get there, Ala?
Well, let's talk a little bit about the chemistry because we're going to get into some of the historical context and just how the community feels when we talk to Mrs. Semenitari a little later in the episode. First of all, soot forms when you have reactions in an instantaneous combustion that's incomplete. Normally, in a combustion reaction, combustion will give off CO2 and water. And CO2 is a greenhouse gas, but otherwise it's harmless to people. However, when you have incomplete combustion, you have these nasty additional carbons that aren't completely burned off. And so with soot, it's kind of an ongoing reaction. The initial reaction starts off and you have those initial hydrocarbons, but depending on the source, you can have other materials like metals in there. And so these reactive molecules form and they start to bind to other hydrocarbons and other particles that are around them. And once it starts, you have a seed and it just keeps going and more bonds form and the soot particles will grow. The same compounds from soot that react in the air to form the haze, that's that smokiness that you're seeing covering Port Harcourt, for example. The sulfur dioxides and the nitrogen dioxides, they also mix with atmospheric moisture to acidify precipitation. So this will throw off your acidic balance in bodies of water. You'll have depletion in your nutrients in the soil. This will affect your crops, so you're messing with agriculture. And it changes the nutrient balances in your bodies of water, like your river basins, your coastlines, your forests. And as we've discussed on the show, Port Harcourt and River States in general has a very complex ecosystem that relies heavily on water and mangrove forests, things like that. Once you throw off those nutrient balances, then the ecosystem will suffer, and by extension, the people will suffer because the food sources suffer. A major component of soot is the black carbon. So soot is black, and that's what you're seeing, because black carbon absorbs more light than any other form of particulate matter that we have as an air quality issue. And what this means is that you're going to have the albedo of your reflective surface reduced. So we've talked about that previously on the polar ice episodes. Go check those out, 35, 36. You're not going to be able to reflect light anymore. You're absorbing light because black carbon can absorb 1 million times more energy than the same mass of CO2, for example. It's a major concern for climate change. Another thing we're going to talk about later in the episode. So just something to keep in mind. And like I said, that's going to have health repercussions, right, Ajwa?
Of course. Like you said, it's a seed. So imagine how much it harms the environment. Now imagine that going inside you, right? So because it's so small, it can penetrate deep into the lungs, and it has been linked to a wide range of some really serious health effects, which can include premature death. It can have heart attacks and strokes, as well as acute bronchitis and just an aggravated asthma among children. The American Lung Association, they add that breathing particle pollution can potentially cause cancer and developmental and reproductive harm. So it's really all aspects of your body is getting affected. But the most vulnerable members of the population are obviously children and elderly. Then there's low-income communities. And as we've seen with COVID, the gap just gets wider and wider. So when people with heart and pre-existing heart and lung conditions, they are exposed to it, it is even worse for them. But that's not to say that healthy adults are not going to suffer. They're suffering too.
Actually, you will find that the elderly are having instances of very long recoveries from COVID. I mean, part of what happened when my dad was ill was that you looked at the picture and the lungs were actually black, literally black.
Wow.
And that's what's going on. Sometime in 2018, I was so ill. And the pulmonologist who looked at my lungs said my lungs were totally black. They looked like I worked on an oil rig, and I don't smoke. Many years ago, even before the soot became an issue, we had a situation where my mom was diagnosed of lung cancer, and she's not a smoker. I remember again, the lung specialist saying to me that they're seeing more and more children, infants, and toddlers coming out of Port Harcourt with very acute respiratory issues. Way back, I believe sometime in early 2000s or thereabouts, something like that. My uncle, who used to be, he's late now, who was a plastic surgeon, actually found that children were coming with congenital malformations, and they were children from the oil-producing parts of River State. So I'm just saying that when you even think about all of the problems of the environment that date way back and that are now aggravated by these issues and this soot, it's mind-blowing.
Exactly. So when you hear us on this podcast talk about oil companies and things like that in the environment, we're not just raging about it. It is something that we personally care about as well.
Yeah, of course. And so I'm so glad that you guys are actually talking about it and getting it out there and getting this awareness out there. So thank you so much for actually joining us and letting us know what's really happening.
Yeah, thank you, Ajwa. I literally grab every opportunity to talk about the problems in the region, the Niger Delta region, the South region.
That is why we have created yet another space for you to talk about soot, because you have served in multiple roles ranging from journalism, public service, agriculture, and education. And you still make time for your philanthropic work with the Rotary Cosmopolitan Club of Port Harcourt, and especially the Eco Club, like you talked about. So how have your professional experiences shaped your personal activist pursuits?
Well, so, sometimes I'm not sure which came before which, because Is it the activism that shaped my professional experience? The reason being that I've always been involved in activism right from school.
It's true, you guys. She used to like drag us with her when we were kids.
Oh, that's so cute.
So I'm not even sure which shaped which. This is a kind of chicken and egg situation. So I don't even think it's about me because my great-grandmother was one of the women involved in the Aba Women's Riot. And the Aba Women's Riot was something when women stood up against the colonial masters about taxation, and the women protested, the women traders protested. So I'm just saying that I think that when you take a look at it, activism actually flows in my veins, literally, because when I think back to my forebears, they've always had activism happening. Yes, I was involved in activism. Being a journalist made me see all the more reason to want to get involved. And I started practicing at a time when my country was under military rule. There was a lot of autocratic leadership. So as a young reporter, I found myself, in the trenches, involved in investigative reporting, and that further enhanced my activist background.
Honestly, that's such a great answer. And like you said, it is in your blood because you have passed it on to Allah. You've done a great job at also not just, raising voice by yourself, but also raising children who are so active in the field and actually doing something, whatever they can in their capacity to actually, help make the world a better place.
You guys heard it here first. Ajwa called me a revolutionary, an activist, and basically a product of great upbringing. Thank you. Thank you very much.
The last part, definitely, yes, true. But revolutionary, girl.
And really, Ala, I think the credit was to me.
I think she definitely mistook that one, yes. Anyway, talking about Nigeria, talking about Port Harcourt, when you think about the current environmental landscape of Nigeria, how does that worry you, right? Like, first off, as the owner of your own farm, and of course, as an educator, and a director of the ABEC group of schools.
The truth is, it's getting more and more difficult for us to even farm, generally in the country, and for many reasons. Okay, there is, of course, the desert encroachment up in the north, which means that land space is shrinking. So a lot more of the cattle rearers are moving their cattle deeper south and destroying farmlands of farmers. So you've got that. You've got, of course, the fact that there is also the ocean rising waters in the south. And so we're again having shrinking spaces down south. Now you have illegal refining that is going on. Don't forget, we're talking about scarce land. We cannot crop because the little land we have left, illegal refiners take it over. And they take it over because it's economics. We have a crisis. This is me speaking as a farmer. It's crazy. It means, of course, that there's a food security situation, all right? Prices are going through the roof because there is a food security situation. The waters have all been polluted. Growing up, I come from River State, like you already know, and we have a lot of seafood that we eat. But all of our waters are polluted. So there are no oysters. Now we're thinking of oyster farming, as an artificial means to put back economics into the hands of the women. But the oysters are gone. The periwinkles are gone. The crabs are gone. The fishes are gone. For you to be able to fish, you have to go deep, deep, deep into the ocean. And these are small fishermen who do not have powerful boats that can brave the waves and go there. And then as an educator, you're dealing with a situation where you're trying to explain to children that there are different ways to live. The children don't see it. They don't know it. They don't even know the things that really existed in their environment. So in terms of the flora and the fauna, a lot is gone. Growing up, I could see all kinds of flowers that I can't see anymore. Even the hibiscus that was very commonplace in these parts is no longer there. So children are growing up with an uncertain sense of who they are or where they are. We're also dealing with the fact that, again, I keep talking about the economics of it. The fact that children are having to stay out of school a lot because they're falling ill. You're having to have a lot more children who are coming up, like you talked about, with very bad asthma. You're having children who are spending more days out of school than they're spending in school because they're consistently ill. You're having a lot of parents that are dying off young because of cancer. And so children are dropping out of school because they don't have families that can cater for them. And when you hear it, it looks like it's far-fetched. But honestly, Ajwa and Allah, this is not far-fetched. This is our reality.
Thank you for your perspective, providing that to our listeners. Because it's very important when people who are from a community speak on something, So shifting gears a little bit before we jump into the meat of this interview, we just want to talk a little bit about our show. Because why not, guys? I'm not saying I'm very egocentric, but I think you listen to this show. I think you know who I am. You are one of the biggest fans of our show. You listen to almost every episode. And Ajwa found this out while we were planning this interview, but you also helped me with the last part of episode 26 on the Niger Delta. So what has been your favorite episode so far of the Planet Policy Pals podcast?
Okay, what if I say none?
Oh, you got jokes, Ma. You're very funny.
Okay. I'm trying to decide between the episode on textiles and the episode on meat. And this is because I like my meat and I like my fashion. And you two ladies made me so guilty about eating meat. Now, I'm saying to myself, so red meat is not just bad for our health, it's bad for the environment. I tried to decide. The one on textile was a serious eye-opener for me because I never drew a nexus between the environment and textiles. I did not, till you guys talked about it. But that's one of the things about your show that I like. The fact that you break it down and take everyday things and show us how we can help make our lives better by picking up new and better habits and finding out new and better ways of doing old things. Again, you simplify really complicated issues. And I just hope a lot more of the policy people are listening because you really, really bring a lot to the fore. And I think if they listened a bit more, it could actually help redirect policy and help communities across the world. Really, this is talking seriously now.
Thank you, guys. Go listen to episodes 13, 14, 15, and 16. I'm a plug all day.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Those were such kind words. We are truly touched. With your extensive experience in journalism and public relations, what is the one thing that you think we could improve about the show, since you've heard so much about it? And we love to hear good things, but sometimes, we'll take constructive criticism. And so please tell us, what do you think we could do better?
Okay, so frankly, and this is now me talking from how many decades back in terms of my generation and your generation, and the fact that there's going to be that difference in how I think things should be done. Like I said, the strength of your show is that you take complicated issues and you really break it down. I like even just the intro for this show. I was able to talk about the chemical components, etc., etc. Ajwa was able to break it down and say, listen, this is what this means to your health. One of the things you might need to do is tone down on the technical information. So break it even further down, because this is mass communication. And even though this is specialized conversation, the whole point of a podcast is to take very, very technical and specialized issues and make it easy to the ears, and easy to follow. So I think that you could do even more in terms of truly breaking down the tech. Well, there's that episode I also like, the one about the Amazon forest.
Oh my God, Mommy. How can all your favorite episodes be Ajwa's ideas?
Well, how was I to know?
Oh, At least I have the meat episode.
So, yeah.
So coming back to the episode and the problem that we're here to really talk about, which is the soot problem in the city of Port Harcourt, like we've been talking about. River State has been facing this problem since 2016. And as a resident of the state, you have really told us about the issues that you've seen firsthand, especially as the roles that you've held as an educator, as someone who runs the farm, especially the problem that you've told us with children. You know, it really makes us think. So could you paint a picture on how you think awareness around the issue has developed over time?
Yeah, especially looking at your work with Rotary Port Harcourt Eco. I know you guys have really been involved in that. And on part 2, we're going to talk more about your Stop the Soot March. But how do you think things have developed over time, the responses, and just being there as a citizen, you know?
So let me start by saying the work was that of Rotary Club of Port Harcourt Eco. I'm not a member of that particular Rotary Club. I belong to Rotary Club of Port Harcourt Cosmopolitan, but my club is the mother club of Port Harcourt Eco. I have to hand out this that it was completely a Port Harcourt Eco thing. I was just there as a support, and because I'm interested in this. But having said that, let me say that all of those in River State, there's been a build-up. There's been a lot of build-up. And everyone has been involved, interestingly, when you take a look at it, from private individuals to government. And there was a first Stop the Soot walk, a campaign that was done by individuals, several individuals, community people, regular people, the media, just regular people, everyday people, who kept saying, we're tired of seeing this thing, and they did this match. There's papers that have been, done. There's a lot of intellectual work that has been done by the academia. Universities in River State, researchers in River State, they've used Wister rats, they've used all kinds of things, just studying the soot problem. So there's been a build-up. What has happened, however, is that is kind of crystallizing. And I must say that the work that Rotary Club of Port Harcourt Eco did, the conference they had, kind of helped crystallize it. And why? Because what they did was look at different people, from everyone who's a stakeholder, whether you're one of those involved in actual illegal refining, or your government, or you're an environmental activist, or you're a community person. Come, let's sit around the table and discuss this problem. No judgment. Just think about it and figure out what is the problem. How can we solve it? How can all of us be partners in resolving the issues? And I think that was a good way to handle it, because arising from that, the state government began to talk about taking some if you like, steps. Now, there would be the argument of whether those steps have been sufficient, whether they're cosmetic, all of those are arguments. But the important thing, though, is that people got together and it is a front burner issue. What to do is to ensure it doesn't leave the front burner. So, it doesn't become one of those things that we try to, if you like, do drama around, and then everybody quickly forgets it, and some new topic, buries it. So that, I think, is what all of those working in the sector need to do. But there has been a build-up, is what I want to say. There's now new attention on it. The state government is beginning to look at it. We need to get a bit more from the federal government. The local governments are not really able to do much because, again, the kingpins reside in the local government areas. And so somehow, would you call it complicity on the parts of those? I don't know what words to use, but basically it is in everyone's face. And I guess what we want to do is to keep it there.
I guess I would call it complicit ignorance, you know what I mean? But it's good that you talked a little bit about government involvement, because in part 2, guys, we're going to get into the systems that the government has used or not used to tackle this very important issue. So definitely stay tuned for that. as well. Obviously, that was really interesting, and thank you for agreeing to do this interview. This is where we're going to wrap up part 1, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this interview with Mrs. Ibim Semenitari. Before you go, you've talked about your club, Rotary of Port Harcourt. Could you also tell us where we can find your organization and yourself on social media for those who want to know more about you?
For the club, if you went on Facebook, just click on Rotary Club of Port Harcourt Cosmopolitan or Rotary Club of Port Harcourt Echo. You're going to find them. They're on Instagram at PH Echo. You'll also find us on Twitter. You'll find me on Facebook as Ibim Semenitari, on Instagram at Ibim Semenitari, and also on Twitter at Ibim Semenitari.
Keeping it real straightforward, huh, Mom?
Yeah.
Real creative.
Oh, well, I'm not your age, you know.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this part 1. Thank you for actually getting our listeners to listen to another voice that is not ours and actually bringing so much insight, because honestly, it's a very serious problem. So thank you for shedding light, and we cannot wait to get back into it more with you in our part 2.
Yes, that is for certain. So, guys, we are still on break for another month. But these breaks aren't really breaks, are they, Ajwa?
We're working, right? So where's the break,
We're
girl?
working. I know. And, we also have our own personal work as well. We didn't talk about it, but Ajwa is like a really huge activist in other spaces as well. So she has a lot going on.
Only till March 8th, guys. If you're in Islamabad, please join us on March 6th in F9 Park. We will be waiting for you. It is at 2 p.m. It is on a Sunday, so you can take your time. Please come there to join us for conversation, and we're going to really make it worth it. Women of Pakistan are really facing a dilemma right now. Sexism and the harassment and rapes and everything. Women's security is really of utmost importance. So please come join us for conversations. We will have women from all walks of life. See you there.
Yeah, it's really important, guys. Women's rights, as much as we care about the environment on here, we care about a lot of other issues. You had my mom talk about activism. One of the things she was also involved in was women's rights. So it's very important to us. Please, if you're in Islamabad, come out and show your support. When we speak up, we can force our governments to make changes. We love you guys for listening. Thank you so much. Remember to follow our guest, Mrs. Semenitari, on Instagram and Facebook. Just search her name, Ibim Semenitari. Check us out on Twitter, Planet Policy Pal, Instagram, Planet Policy Pals. Next week, we will be finishing part 2 of this interview, and you definitely want to come for that, because we are going to get into the meat of the issue. All right, this was really just an intro for you guys. Rate us, review us, send us your audience questions. I will never stop asking. Even if we don't answer during the break, we'll answer afterwards. We will not have as many posts on social media because it's a break, but we'll still be there to listen to you. Slide in our DMs. I'll always respond. Aj will respond. Please stay awesome, you guys. Stay warm. And in these times of just chaos in the world, we want to send our love to all the people in Ukraine. And you guys just try and stay safe, all right? And as always, keep learning, pals.